Welcome back to From Corporate to Cashflow. We are Andrea Cannon and Liz Schwab, two pharmacists navigating the process of building time and financial freedom through real estate lending and investing while working our day jobs. Navigating the journey is difficult, but our podcast guests are experts in showing us how it's done. And today we have Dustin Geroski. Dustin, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks, Dustin. I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more. So let's jump in, and we would love to hear a little bit about your real estate journey. So where did you start, and then where did you end up, and what are you focusing on today in real estate?
Yeah, so I'll probably jump a little back and forth. Um, so at the moment, we are hyper focused on co-living, building a co-living portfolio. I also teach, I'm a sub two coach, one of the one-on-one coaches, and then I also do new construction in Hawaii. Um, 3 years ago, little 3.5 years ago, I didn't know anything about real estate. My background has always been pretty business focused. I have a finance MBA, and then I'm a Florida agent. Um, but yeah, so I joined Sub 2 almost 3 years ago. Um, in short, I had a friend that was already retired from real estate. I met him through church, and we started hanging out, prepping for a race together. And so this is like 2022, and he's like, one day, he's like, "Hey, do you want to buy real estate?" Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but this sounds great. And as I said, he already retired. He had a pretty good size assisted living portfolio in Utah, actually, and he sold his cut and then moved to Miami, basically. So anyway, we I learned a lot. The first year's the hardest in real estate, I'd say, or it's a different type of hard. That's the better way to put it. I don't think any year's easy. Um, but yeah, I bought the first deal, did a couple wholesale deals, and then also bought first co-living property all in the same year, and then really just like dialed in what I wanted to do and pushed forward on it and got better and learned, along the way.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned wholesaling. Are you still wholesaling as well?
No, so I was wholesaling pretty heavily for 2 years, and then simultaneously I was also building the co-living side or buying and just building up the portfolio. Um, I learned, especially on bigger assets, it's completely reasonable and normal to charge an acquisition fee of 2 to 3%. And I was like, well, I'm just, instead of getting a wholesale fee that's roughly the same, if not less, I'm just going to focus on building out my marketing where I raise capital and then buy and then get paid to buy. So I
Mm.
phased out the wholesale.
Okay, so I know you mentioned transitioning to co-living. So is this something that a mentor suggested to you or something that you found on your own research?
Yeah, so there's a blend. In during undergrad, I lived in a handful of co-living properties. Not as official like pad split, but it was real common, like during especially the early years, the first couple years of college, to live with roommates. And so I've lived in five total. Two of them were in different countries. One was Cyprus, below Greece. The other was Japan for a little bit. And so I've learned the concept from the inside, you could say. And then one year or one deal came across my plate, and I showed it to my broker, and I thought we were going to flip it. It was in Orlando, and he had just got back from the Bigger Pockets conference, October 2023, and he's all hyped up from it. And he's an older Japanese guy. It's funny. So he's real excited. So it's not often, like usually very mild. And he's like, "No, we're going to turn this into a pad split." I've heard of rent by the room, but I'd never heard the word pad split before. And I was just like, all right, what are you talking about? What is this? And yeah, just kind of snowballed from there. That was the first one.
And then the property you mentioned in Hawaii, which is new construction, is that for co-living?
No, so out there on Big Island, um, I have a partner that's local. And so I help raise PML funds for it. And then, yeah, he lives on Oahu, but does new construction on Big Island and then sells it. Just regular, like
Okay.
three twos, four twos.
Very cool. Very cool. And though Andrea and I both have regular like W-2 jobs and are doing real estate on the side, can you walk us through if you had like a regular W-2 job at one point and maybe what your thought process was for transitioning away from that?
Yeah, so like growing up, I always got decent grades. Learning was well, like I didn't have challenges in school, like came easy. Um, my dad was military though, like very, and I think I got enough of like a controlled setting at a young age where I was like, I cannot work a corporate job. Like I just can't. And so I went, I for a bit, I thought I wanted to be a chiropractor, so I did a couple trimesters of that. It was hard, but I passed everything. But I realized I like business a lot more. It's more scalable as well. Um, so I switched over to business. So my undergraduate degree is supply chain, and then my master's I got in South Florida. It's a finance MBA. So anyway, what I'm getting at is along the way, I was tempted many times to get different W-2 jobs, especially with finance. Like I could do that very easily. I worked one while I was living in Hawaii. I was waiting on my wife to finish her bachelor degree. I finished a year ahead of her, and I worked for Enterprise for a year. This is during COVID. COVID shut the island down, and then we decided to move because it was locked down basically. So that was really the only W-2 job. I've done a lot of different types of consulting, like under the finance umbrella, and I've just over time narrowed it more and more to real estate. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it depends a lot on people's personality type. Like I'd rather work 100 hours for myself at minimum wage than work 40 hours for someone else and make way more money, as bittersweet as that can be sometimes. But yeah,
It's nice to be building your own dream, right? And your own vision
yeah,
and executing on that rather than the company, the corporate, that sort of thing. I definitely understand that draw, but also admire people who are able to step outside of this,
it's bittersweet.
right? Yeah.
Part of it too is like my dad is a perfect example. 22 years in the military, gets retirement, and then also works for the VA. But as you know, administration changes, fluctuates, even his job, a government job, is at stake. And I've seen that a couple of times in my adulthood. I'm like, all right, if his job is at risk, it didn't make me feel good about any of the other jobs I saw that I could get and like pouring myself into it. And then at any moment, I could, in theory, be let go, especially COVID helped me see that. So like, I just, maybe I'm paranoid. I don't know. But yeah, I fueled it.
So I mean, man, I can really relate to that. I both Liz and I are in the pharmaceutical industry, and for me personally, I've been let go twice, just completely unexpectedly related to clinical trials not working out. And so then they fire the whole team, and this has happened to me multiple times now. And it's like I didn't really do anything wrong. It just is. It is what it is, right? And so
No,
you think you have this like stability and this control, and like it's really not there, and you have a lot more when it's at least a lot more control. I don't know about stability, but a lot more control when it's related to you. Yeah, I can certainly relate. So I know you're doing co-living and new construction, and how did you choose these things out of everything that there is to do in real estate? Like what pointed you in this direction specifically?
um, so living in the property, the co-living helped me have a lot of confidence on what would work versus not, which it's not even like super complex, but it was very clear to me. Like, okay, there's a strong demand. Also, my background at the graduate level, I studied a lot of monetary policy. So like everyone's working 8, 10, 12 hours a day to get a dollar or money, right? But I realize most people don't really actually know what money is. Like, where does it come from? Who decides how much there is? Who decides all these things about it? And so I studied it like at the source. The first, like when new money is born, how did that happen? And what I realized though and the way this connects to the real estate is they abuse it. It's printed. It's not backed by gold. And so the money supply goes up, 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 but then the cost of living does as well, but the wage, the average salary and everything is dramatically slower. And so co-living, I saw there was a massive demand and it's only going to go up because that trend, and it's not just the US, all countries, they print money. And then whoever gets to spend that new dollar first, they get the biggest benefit. So it's like the middle class is shrinking, the lower class is expanding. And so there's a very strong demand now and in the future for affordable housing. So I got to look at it from my finance lens to have the confidence to just go like full throttle towards co-living.
Yeah, that's definitely another perspective to look at it that we necessarily haven't heard before. But I'm super curious because I know you mentioned since you had lived in co-living properties that it helped you understand like what would work, what wouldn't work, which makes a lot of sense, right? Because if you've actually been in that situation, you're like, well, this sucks, or I want this. So can you
Yeah.
share with us maybe one thing where you're like, hey, I'm living in this co-living and like this sucks, or I want to make sure I have this in my future co-living properties?
Yeah. So we talked about this. So inside of Sub 2, I was one of the co-teachers for the co-living semesters, and this was like a hot topic. A lot of people, they want this more community co-living type environment, which I think makes sense at a certain point. Um, but if your goal is to like leave your W-2, the pad split model 1000% is the way to go. But then it's like, all right, you've left your W-2, you have a portfolio cash flow coming in. Then I think it can make more sense to do more like empathy-based investing or like emotional, like you want to make a bigger impact, not just affordable housing, but more niche down. And that opens the door to the community type co-living where it's okay. With pad split model, no living room, no questions asked. Like when I lived in the co-living properties, everyone's always fighting over the living room. Like, why does Randy get the couch and the TV 5 days a week and Steve doesn't? That kind of stuff. So I learned, I mean, that's probably the biggest one is limiting the common area. It 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 can be good, but then it's like you have to hire someone on your team or have an excellent property manager that's willing to deal with all that.
Yeah.
Where our main audience, I think in general and in the sub 2 semesters, a lot of people want, their first 5 to 10 properties to replace their income, and that the pad split model makes complete sense for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, even just I know personally from renting, which which is one other person, you're like, get out of the living room. Like, and so we'll be like, hey, why are you always
Yeah.
here? Like, get out of the kitchen. So I completely understand that
hmm
100%. And then I know you mentioned you've focused on a few different things here and you already shared with us some things you've learned for co-living. But what's something that you've learned throughout your real estate journey that you wish you would have known when you first started?
It's funny, I did a podcast yesterday. They asked this same question. So have you guys done the Clifton Strengths? So like on mine, it's achiever, learner, focus, like in the top five.
Hmm.
And so like I love learning and like so I mean I could dive in, especially when I first joined Sub 2, I was like I lived in the vault. But what I wish I would have done sooner is made myself go to a lot more meetups a lot earlier. And then because I did go to some, but hindsight, I should have went to like at the rock bottom one a month, but ideally like two or three a month. And then when going with a Google Sheet, so like name, number, email, but then asking very specifically, like, hey, what are you looking for in your business? What are you looking for in your business? And like tracking it better.
Hmm.
I wish I would have done that much, much sooner. It took me probably a year and a half to realize that was the secret sauce. And then just solving their problems.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I know Pace always talks about when we get to meetups and he's there, he's like, what do you have and what do you need? And to be
Hmm.
the conversation for every topic. And I think that's really helpful because it gives people, oh, not just talk about your kids or talk about, your what's going on at home or your job. It's like you can actually be targeted, and that way you can do exactly what you said and you can help solve those people's problems, and probably make some money in the process. But if not, make some really good connections and
Yeah.
foster really long-term relationships where they'll think of you like, oh man, he was so helpful last time, like now I have this thing, like yeah, let's go into
Yeah.
business.
There was a quote, Pace. So at the very last Sub 2 Mastermind, it was October 2023. I went and Pace said something that has stuck with me a long time that connects to this. It was, if you feel lost, you're selfish. Find 25 people, figure out what their problem is, and then solve it. And then obviously figure out how to get paid along the way. He's like, if you make solving other people's problems your focus, it's much easier to keep and build that momentum and then like build your own business like just as a natural byproduct.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I think so many newbies could learn from that and experienced people as well, because it sometimes can be easy to get on your own island and just keep going. But
Mhm,
I mean, you can go so much farther when you're with other people and working together. So it's super helpful.
mhm.
So I want to hear, it's a little bit different being in the entrepreneurial world, and you've been there for a long time. So clearly you've had some success. I'd love to hear a little bit about habits and routines that you've developed to be successful along your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, so it's definitely a constant experiment. Um, my most recent is that actually today and I've been on the fence about this a while. I'm officially cutting caffeine. Um, like it's not going to be easy for me. It's going to be awful, but I realized a lot of my not clouded thinking, but like a lot of what I have three main income streams and I rotate kind of what needs attention. And I realized what was causing maybe confusion or extra stress or frustrations. It was like just that elevated cortisol, the caffeine. It's like so that's one. That's a recent one. But in general, yeah, Monday through Saturday, I wake up pretty early. My wife and I, we have two kids. One's 4 months old, the other's 3 years old. So we're in a unique, wild stage of life. But I wake up early. I do. Have you ever read Miracle Morning? So I've been doing that for like 3 years. Um, it's a good book. There's a couple of versions of it too, but even just the normal general is a good one. So it starts with like a morning routine, like a quick silent meditation, reading. You could do just like 3 minutes each, even. But so I have like my morning ritual. That book will explain it a lot more. And then the gym, or I used to run a lot. And now I'm in like a gym phase of life. And then I'll come back. And I really like actually lately Jamil's 30-minute meditation. He has a, I like that one. I've been doing it every morning. And then like live and breathe by the calendar. So it's like it's one of the pinned tabs on my computer is my Google Calendar, and then certain members of our team they have access to it. And then I do the sub two coaching, the one-on-one, where that's also like people book based on what's available in the calendar. So that's mostly it, yeah. And my phone's always on silent. My grandma could call, Pace could call, the president could call, and it's going straight to voicemail. That's the only way I
Yeah.
personally can get anything done.
Yeah, I like that. I can relate to the caffeine thing. I'm actually trying to detox from caffeine as well. The rebound headaches are no joke, though,
Yeah.
from stopping caffeine. So it's a long process. I didn't realize how addictive caffeine could be, right?
Oh,
But I can relate to the cortisol spikes, and so I think that's
mm,
a really great thing to try to do. And then I like your advice about keeping your phone on silent. I know that people have different responsibilities and maybe you have to watch your phone all the time because maybe you have more urgent things going on. But I find that for me, it's a lot easier to put it on silent and just put it in another room,
Hmm.
right? Because there's no way that you can be like, well, let me just see, I have like 2 seconds, which turns into like 30 minutes, which turns into an hour. So I can definitely relate to that too. So I think that's good advice and just finding out what works best for you. So
Hmm.
um, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And then I know we asked a similar question before, but I always like to ask if you're talking to someone that's newer in their financial independence journey. So maybe they decided the same thing as you. Like, I don't want to work so many hours for an employer and make them rich. I'd rather work for myself. Or maybe they're just starting in real estate. What piece of advice would you give them in 30 seconds?
I would say as long as as long as you're focused and you remember you get paid to solve problems, then you're going to do well. So it's either I spoke at my old undergrad, BYU Hawaii, a month ago, and we were talking about this. I was like, all right, you get paid to solve problems. So if you want to make more money, you either not need to solve bigger problems or more smaller problems. So it's like when you're the newbies or whoever, when they're networking and they just make that the priority, like first 30 seconds of the conversation, it's like, all right, what do you, and it might not be a problem, but maybe it's like, what do you want to enhance in your business?
Mhm.
And you're remembering that about each person, like you're going to do pretty well. Because then
Yeah,
it's
no,
just
it's
like, then you're just start connecting people. It's like you've met 30 people, you know what each problem is. Then you'll realize, oh, they just need to meet each other. And then you can connect them.
yeah, for sure. So I'll ask you, what problem are you trying to solve right now that maybe people can help you with?
Um, right now, we're mostly just raising capital. We have it pretty dialed in. We do new construction co-living in Houston, 10 beds, 10 baths. So we're building a portfolio specifically there. Um, and then raising capital for that, so equity partners. And then the other is raising private money, or PML, like 12 months for the new construction deals on Big Island. That's like 12 months. It's a 70% LTV. My operating partner, he's done over 100 flips on Oahu and almost 80 new builds on Big Island. And so I'm just really focused on raising capital for those two. And yeah,
And are you raising capital using fractional or another method?
yeah. So we've done, I think, I mean, we've raised this year, we've raised a little over 2 million. Over 1 million of that was on fractional. Um, the rest is more just private. I guess still goes through title and everything, but we don't do PML raises currently on fractional, but yeah, we've done at least three. Yeah, we've done four raises on fractional this year.
That's really cool. Good job. And so I'm guessing if people have money that they're looking to place, they could reach out to you. Is that a potential?
Yeah, the easiest way is buydealswithdustin.com.
Oh, I
And it
love it.
goes to my link tree, and I'm always updating the link tree based on what we have going on. But
Oh,
for
that's
the sake of evergreen, yeah, it's just buydealswithdustin.com or Instagram, like on the bottom of this, just Dustin Geroski.
I like it. Oh, that's great. So you mentioned you're doing the 10 bed, 10 bath in Houston. Just clarify with everyone, like beds and that seems like a lot, right? Lot of beds, a lot of baths. Like that seems like the hugest property ever. Is there a living room in these? Like, how is it designed, and is it like more looking pad split like with no like common areas, or how does that like work with the way that you've designed these?
Yeah, so to take a quick step back, we picked Houston because, well, first, there's no restrictions on the number of unrelated people. There's only a few pockets in the US right now where we figured if we're raising capital, let's minimize risk as much as we can. And so, second, narrowing, we're outside of Texas Medical Center. They have over 100,000 employees, so we're less than 2 miles away from this. And so we really liked that. And so the demographic is either it could be students, traveling nurses, or there's a really wide range, but we're also less than 2 miles from UH, 50,000 students. And so We decided to go with this 10-10 because we like the risk, the zoning and all that. We liked the demographics that are around. And then we identified the demand of what they wanted. And so typically there's not really common area. It's 3 stories. There's one, we have a couple different floor plans, but most common is there's 2 beds on the bottom. Everyone really likes their own bathrooms. No, the average age on pad split is a 35-year-old male. And so we found, okay, everyone wants their own bathroom, so let's just focus on that. There is a pretty big kitchen on the bottom floor. Second floor, a kitchenette, much smaller. Third floor, kitchenette. And then on the first and third are laundry rooms.
Very nice.
And so, yeah, 3 stories, 10 beds, 10 baths.
That's a really cool model. And since you're building these, help people understand. I know we've talked about co-living a lot, but why would you go for more of like a single family home style rather than like studio apartments?
Um, so here's a good example. I I live a couple hours north of Miami now. My wife and I were down there, it cost, this is 2 years ago, 2,500 for a 1 bed, 1 bath. Where when you look at rooms on pad split down there, it costs about 300 a week. So if
Mhm.
you're like in a single adult, it's 300 a week, and that includes utilities though.
Oh, wow.
So it's like it costs much less. It's a lot more simple. You're not like getting utilities in your name and all this stuff, especially if you're there for 6 months.
Mhm.
Um, so there is a noticeable demand for like the simplicity of it. Because in each room too, it's a queen bed, full size or good size desk, like a normal desk, comfortable chair, mini fridge, and then a little bit of art on the wall, and then you have your own bathroom.
Yeah, that's nice. And I think so from the affordability, the end user side, there's that benefit, and I'm expecting it's cheaper to build as well on your side too, rather than like 10 individual full studio
Mhm.
apartments with full kitchens and all those things, like
Yeah.
probably a bit cheaper there too. Um, no, and that's helpful to understand because I think when I first heard about co-living and the pad split model, my first like gut reaction was like, ugh,
Mhm.
because I was thinking about me in college, right? And now, I was in college, right? I'm in my early 20s. Now I'm in my later 30s. Like these are just not time frames for me. So I'm thinking about, oh gosh. And then you're talking about the average age, being well into the 30s for people in pad split. So it just wasn't like necessarily resonating with me as much as once I thought about it a lot more. It makes a lot more sense now because there's definitely a need for people that fit in that demographic, right?
Yeah, it's growing, and also the way we build our team, or the way we buy. All right, so there's pad split. They're the first layer, and they're doing a background check, financial check, credit check. And then you can even turn on the settings in your own account to where it's enhanced a little bit, and it'll cut the bottom 15% higher risk people. So that's layer one. We're not doing that, they are. The second layer is we always hire a property manager, and we build out the
Mhm.
SOPs where they are the point of contact for all the tenants. And then only if something is outside of an existing SOP or an existing or above average, above threshold expense,
Mhm.
$500, then the property manager comes to us. But and then on our team, we have an asset manager who is the point of contact for the property manager. So
Mhm.
then the asset manager has their own SOPs. And if they don't know what to do, then it comes to the final layer. And so we've really like built it to keep a barrier where we can focus on what we like and want to do, and actually be like owners of it, and not like in the day to day, like Steve is messaging us about, someone stole his cereal, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. And that's one of like the worst parts about being the landlord is those like
Hmm.
nitty pretty like yucky thing. So it's nice to hear that you guys have kind of figured that out with so many layers. I love it. We could all learn
Kept us
from
from
that.
the community model at the moment is we haven't seen a clean template that allows all those layers. I'm sure that someone's going to do it if they haven't already, but on the community model, it would force us to be at that either layer one or layer two instead of
Mhm.
layer four.
Yeah, about that. Oh man, well, I appreciate you sharing that insight. I know co-living is a hot topic, and I know you are one of the absolute experts. So it's been really
Mm.
interesting to learn from you on this. And I want to kind of wrap it up with a little bit more of a fun question. So Liz and I both are, really interested in getting outside, exploring, traveling, things like that, having fun while we're building wealth at the same time. So, wondering, I know you have a little one, so this may be a delayed question, but if you have any upcoming like bucket list adventures you're hoping to check off.
Um, well, we just went to Hawaii last month. That was pretty fun. We took our larger co-living investors out there. Well, we met them out there, and I mean that was. I got to think of what the next bucket list is. I know I like cruises. I like traveling. Um, I have to talk with my wife, figure out which one we agree on, what our next trip. I know we want to go to Central America soon, like
Yeah, you can't really go
close.
wrong.
Yeah, same time zone roughly. So I think that'll be probably in the next. I'm hoping next year tops.
Yeah. I like the idea of bringing the co-living people to Hawaii with you. I think that's great. Obviously, there's a huge incentive to work with you in that aspect if you're going to Hawaii. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we did it as like a filtering mechanism. So like the barrier and like they take care of their own travel and stuff, but we wanted to create an environment where they could find other people that are very serious. So like
Mm,
the qualifier is 50K and above investment on property. So it's like we don't want it big. Purposely kept it small, and now they get to see who other like there's a pharmacist there, John Jones and his wife, Rachel Johns. She's the doctor. There's a couple people in the medical, but anyway, it was 2 days. The first day was we did more like hot seat style, and it was identifying each person got like their own 30 minutes, and we problem solved the whole room. And then the second day, or first day we did that, and then at night we had dinner with the mayor of Hawaii. That was really cool, Big Island, and he talked about like what they're going to be doing, like changes coming. So if you paid attention, you'd know where to invest. Is the takeaway.
mm,
And then the second day, we went and looked at projects on Oahu. And so it's cool because like we could see those people that went, they are now collaborating together, like creating teams.
yeah, that's super cool because to your point, not only do you get, share in this property or, an opportunity to participate, but now you're growing other connections to like-minded people and you get a cool vacation in Hawaii. So,
Mhm.
three birds, one stone, right? Very cool. And more time with you. Four. There you
Yeah.
go. And then I know you mentioned to kind of wrap up here that you're looking to raise capital. And I'm curious, are you open to people trying to find co-living properties for you, or is that something that you would rather focus on yourself?
Well, I mean, at the moment, like we have our conveyor belt so dialed in, like the builder finds the land for us. All we have to do is focus on raising the money.
Okay.
So at least as of now or not, it would be more difficult for us to like start like we'd need to hire someone to start underwriting the deal flow. Um, so at least for probably the next 12 months, we're like just laser focus, Houston new construction.
Got it. Okay. And then for raising money, what type of investor are you looking for if someone's interested in lending?
Yeah, so for the co-living, like the co-living bucket, we do private money partners as low as 10K. And then like we really try to match it so that our cash on cash loan is equivalent to the S&P 500. There's a lot of self-directed IRA people that work with us. And then on top of that, the cash flow, they also get, the appreciation, the debt pay down. Some qualify for the depreciation. So that's like a 5 to 7 year hold. And then after we refi, they'll maintain that ownership and then get their principal back. So
Mm.
that's the first bucket. And then the other is much shorter, where it's just the private money lender, 12 months, typically like 15%, which some gators be like, oh, that's nothing. Well, when you're with a very experienced operator, it's like you're trading risk versus return. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's 70% LTV, the PML. That's the project, that's the risk profile of it. But yeah, 12 months, 15%.
Okay, perfect. And I know you mentioned it before, but just so everyone's on the same page, how to get in contact with you or where to look for deals, can you share the best way for them to find that?
Yeah, yeah. The best two ways, buydealswithdustin.com. And then the second is just through Instagram. I think that's how Andrea and I connected actually, was through Instagram. And that's just at Dustin_Geroski.
I love it. Well, we appreciate it. And like I said, we've learned so much from you today. I think you are just an absolute rock star when it comes to the co living model. It's very unique what you guys are doing, building from the ground up, but really leading the way as far as advancements and like really next level for the co living business model. So we really appreciate learning from you and you sharing everything with us here today. And hopefully, other people learned a lot from this as well. So, with that, thanks everyone for tuning into this week's episode of From Corporate to Cashflow. We will catch you next week. Hey, it's Andrea. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, I'd love it if you hit subscribe. Thanks so much.